DLC stands for downloadable content, and it's often a way for game developers to expand their games past their original release, through things like expansions, new items, maps, or the true ending to Ashura's Wrath. But you, Capcom. Cool, that's $7 down the drain. This business practice has been around since 1997, and while there have been some hiccups along the way, the practice is mostly accepted. But here comes 2008, and Soul Calibur 4 is released with one of the very first DLC characters ever in a fighting game, which is Yoda. A character who fundamentally broke how the game was played, and almost immediately was banned in every tournament. There was a huge amount of tension in the community when this game was released, so the question is, are DLC characters in fighting games problematic? Granted, yes, Yoda was unbanned in most major tournaments soon after, but on release this character's surface upsides were too amazing to ignore. Highs and throws would go completely over him, and you could only hit him with mids and lows. However, he did have substantial downsides of his own, such as low damage output, poor range, and terrible mobility. That being said, this character was still largely problematic in the casual scene, and it was essentially the equivalence of fighting Oddjob in GoldenEye, where your approach to fighting the character had to change drastically in order to beat them. And although Yoda ended up being more of a balanced character than people expected originally, there are plenty of other DLC characters that were just flat out broken. Let's take for example Alien in Mortal Kombat 10. This character was extremely broken on release, specifically its acidic variation. Acidic Alien offered insanely high damage, mix-ups within mix-ups, and could easily kill you off of one or two of those mix-ups. What was its downside, you might ask? Well, initially on release there was none. It was insanely powerful and could easily be considered to be one of the most perfect characters in any fighting game ever. So it's extremely interesting to me to see this god of a character who literally could do it all come with a $5 price tag. I don't want to come out the gate and say that Alien was extremely strong because players had to shell out a bit more money for her, but let's take another example before I bring up that point. Before that though, if you're enjoying the video so far, please hit the like button and subscribe to stay up to date with my content. According to my YouTube analytics, almost half of my viewers are not subscribed, and I would really appreciate the support. On December 10th, 2019, Tekken 7 released Leroy Smith, a practitioner of the Wing Chun martial arts, and just like Alien, he was extremely broken on release, sporting insanely high damage, great pressure tools, and a parry that could parry every single mid or high attack in the game, as well as a stance that would auto parry any low in the game. Alongside that, he seemed to have just about every tool, and he didn't just have every tool, he had the best versions of them. Some examples are a far-reaching hell sweep, an insanely safe orbital, the fastest counter hit mid-launcher, along with a ton of hard-hitting pokes. But of course, he comes with a $6 price tag, and Alien and Leroy aren't the only modern fighting game DLC characters to be like this. Bayonetta, Joker, Falcon Realm, UI Goku, Seth, Starfire, Joker again. The point is that these DLC characters were extremely strong on release or are still strong today, and we can see this is a pattern in the industry. I know that there are some DLC characters out there that are fairly underwhelming or balanced. However, a majority of DLC characters tend to lean towards the strong side. But why are DLC characters so strong? Well, obviously first we have to remember that these characters are separate to the base game. They are their own products to be sold, so when a company releases a product they want it to be satisfying to consume, otherwise nobody will purchase the product. So creating an extremely strong DLC character is definitely in the interest of the company for monetary gain, which creates a conflict of interest against the game's community. The community wants a balanced game, but a game studio's primary goal is to obtain profit. And NetherRealm Studios is the most notorious company for a practice that has this kind of mindset. Oftentimes they'll release a DLC character who is obscenely broken just to nerf them once enough sales go through or until there's enough backlash from fans. A common question I see from a lot of new people to a fighting game scene is, well, is it possible that they don't do it on purpose? Is it possible they just don't expect those characters to be that strong? Personally, I doubt it. Besides those companies having teams dedicated to just balancing, you can only give them the benefit of doubt so many times before it looks like it's just being done on purpose. Which it probably is, by the way. This practice leads to a negative experience for many players, and it's understandable to see how people can feel cheated when playing against DLC, saying that DLC characters are becoming pay to win. And while I personally wouldn't call any of the DLC characters I mentioned above pay to win, I would definitely say that they are paid to close the gap. These characters definitely don't just hand you the win, but they do make it drastically easier just by their movesets being extremely powerful. And with their movesets being so strong, of course many players would want to lab against them. But here's the next issue. In many fighting games you can't lab against a DLC character unless you buy them, and while I understand the reasoning of why you can't play against them in training mode, it does cause a problem. By locking these characters completely, players who only want to lab them are required to purchase them even if they have no intention to ever play them. In my opinion, this is the bigger issue. If you can't lab a character, you're essentially going into a match partially blind, and depending on your level of play, the lack of character knowledge can be an extremely high detriment to your experience. So again, you're going to have to shell out $5, $7, or $10 for a character, and that's only if there's only one DLC character. If you compare the average amount of DLC characters there are in any modern fighting game, on average you'll have to pay roughly $60, if not more, to obtain the whole roster. So what's the takeaway? In my opinion, DLC characters themselves aren't the issue, it's the practice behind producing them that is. DLC characters themselves can create a lot of hype in the community and can do a lot to revitalize a game. And devs have shown before that they have been able to make balanced DLC characters who are fun to play as and against. However, with the way things are going, the current model of producing strong DLC characters doesn't seem like it'll stop soon. It's just too successful of a practice. I for one am not pleased about the way the fighting game world is progressing, but I am hopeful that devs will listen to their fans and alter their practices. I think a great stepping stone would be if devs would allow players to lab these characters in training mode, as it is not harmful to the gameplay experience in any way and it respects the idea of equality that the FGC community is built upon. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with me, or do you think that DLC characters are not that big of a problem? Let me know in the comments below, I'm interested in what you guys think. And with that being said, thanks for watching and have a wonderful day.